everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you a Kickstarter preview of Doomlings. Now this will be going up on Kickstarter very soon. Check the link in the description below for the Kickstarter campaign page, as well as all the information for the dates that it's going to start and end. Before we get down to Doomlings, I do want to mention our sponsor, Board Game Co. Now this is a great website where you can buy, sell, and trade games. They have a great selection of games to choose from if you're just looking to purchase more games, just need to build out your collection, got something you're missing from your collection that you'd really like to get your hands on, go check out Board Game Co. They just might have it. You can also sell games to them. They have a really easy to use system for buying games from you. Just go over there, check that out, and see how that works. Now, the cool thing that I really like about Board Game Co. is their trade system. If you have a Board Game Geek account and you've set up a trade list there, what you want in trade, what you have for trade, they will then look at that. You can type in your Board Game Geek username over at Board Game Co. They'll look at that trade list, they'll compare it to their stock, and build a custom trade list right there on their website for you to be able to very easily facilitate a trade. Go check them out. There's a link in the description below so that they know I sent you over there. Board Game Co. makes it easy to buy, sell, and trade your way into a better collection. All right, so Doomlings. You know what? Let me just say a couple things real quick. Then we'll get down to the game topper, and then we'll come back up and I'll give you some final thoughts on it. Doomlings basically is a very fast-paced 2 to 6 player game where you're essentially creating new life from scratch, building it out, and then the world ends. That's the long and short of it. That's the elevator pitch. It's got some really kind of cutesy artwork that has, I mean, look, you can see it on the screen behind me here. That has some really great personality to it. I've laughed out loud at a couple of the cards as I've been going through this. Really had a good time looking at all that. So before I ramble on too much more, I think you can already tell that I do like this game. I mean, this is a paid Kickstarter preview, so take that for what you will. But let's get down to the game topper. I'll show you a little bit more about Doomlings, and then we'll come back up. Okay, so in Doomlings, all of the game is based around these 3 different types of cards, all right? Now, first off, these right here are your gene pool cards. Each player will have one. So obviously you can see there's 6 of them because 6 possible players in the game, 2 to 6 players the count. You're going to start at 5. So whatever number's on top, that's your current gene pool count. And so you'll start at 5, and that means that your hand limit is currently 5. All right, now, as you play the game, as trades get played by you and other players, that's going to adjust this. And so you could have anywhere up to a gene pool of 8 cards in your hand, or as low as 1, which would be pretty bad. It would really limit your options. And so that is going to be one of the most important things in the game for you, other than the actual score, obviously. Because this, the higher you can have this, the more options you're going to have at any given time, because at the end of every turn, you're going to stabilize your hand. That's what it's called, stabilizing your hand, meaning that you're going to adjust your hand to whatever your gene pool is. So if your gene pool is 5 and you're currently at 3 cards, you're going to draw 2 cards. If your gene pool is 5 and you're at 8 cards right now because of whatever's happened during your turn, then you're going to have to discard 3 until you get back down to 5. So that's what that's about. Now let's look at these age cards real quick. So there's, let's see, some of these are, let's find some, are catastrophes. So here's a couple of catastrophes. Let's look at a few of these. So in every game, there's going to be 3 of these in the deck. All right, they're going to be relatively evenly spaced out. If you ever played Pandemic, had the way that you space the epidemic cards, the way those are spaced out relatively evenly in the deck, you kind of have different stacks, and you know. So with these, you actually would have. When the regular age cards are put out, you'll have 3 different stacks. 1 catastrophe will go to each stack. You shuffle the individual stacks and then build a deck with those stacks. So they'll be relatively evenly spaced out, but it is technically possible you could have 2 back to back. But let's look at what some of these do. So Mega Tsunami here. So see right here, -1 of the gene pool. So you'd have to drop down to 4 when Mega Tsunami gets pulled off of the age deck. All right, let's see. And to be clear, these age cards, these are not in any player's hand. These are at the beginning of each round, a new age is revealed. Okay, and we'll go through kind of a mock turn here in a second. So -1 of the gene pool, pass your hand to the right. All right. So everyone is going to pass their hand to the right. Now, this World's End, it only comes into effect if this is the final catastrophe to be pulled. So the third catastrophe in the game. But if this was the third one, then in this case, discard 1 red trait from your trait pile. And the reason why that's significant is that could affect your in-game score. All right, so then let's look at this. We've got AI Takeover. Again, -1 of the gene pool. Discard all but 1 card from your hand. All right, so that's going to, for your next turn, is going to significantly affect what you can do, even though at the end of your turn, you'll then draw back up to whatever your hand size is when you stabilize. World's End, again, only if this is the third catastrophe to be pulled. Colorless traits are now worth 2. Ignore all colorless trait effects. So that could have a positive effect or it could have a negative effect for you. And then Mass Extinction, -1 of the gene pool. Discard 1 card from your hand for every colorless trait in your trait pile. And then if this is the World's End catastrophe, discard 1 green trait from your trait pile. All right, so that's, we've got all these catastrophes that happen. There's a lot of catastrophes in here, so you're not necessarily going to see, the same ones. You got Gray Goo, Glacial Meltdown, the big one, Solar Flare, Overpopulation, the 4 Horsemen, Retrovirus, Nuclear Winter, Supervolcano, Deus Ex Machina, Ice Age, Pulse Event. So you can see lots of options there. And remember, there's only going to be 3 of those catastrophes per game. All right. But then you have all these other age cards. Let's get rid of these catastrophes and look at some of the regular age cards. So in general, and the way it works is you're going to have 9 of these age cards in the age deck, 3 catastrophe cards in that same age deck. So 12 cards total. So at most, you're going to see only 9 of these per game. You can see how many of these there are right now. And these do things like Lunar Retreat. Players cannot play purple traits, all right? Age of Dracula. Discard 1 random card from your hand. If Vampirism is in your trait pile, I didn't even know Vampirism was a trait because you have all these traits in the game, so I have not seen all of them. Steal 1 random card from an opponent's hand. Let's see. Tropical Lands. Players cannot play colorless traits. Oh, that's a catastrophe. Reforestation. Traits in your trait pile cannot be swapped or stolen or discarded. Alien Terraform. You may discard any dominant cards from your hand and stabilize immediately. One reason why that might be important is there's these things that are called dominant traits. Let me see if I can find one here. They have dominant. Let's see. They've got this. There we go. So got this big star here. Well, once you have 2 dominant traits out in your trait pile, you can't play any more dominant traits. So they just start taking up space in your hand at that point. So having something like this, where you can discard any dominant cards from your hand, could be very useful. Let's see. We've got Birth of a Hero. So this one's cool, actually. So remember, I just told you how you can only have 2 dominant traits in your trait pile. So let's say you had Apex Predator out there in your trait pile, and let's find another one. Where are they? Where are all the dominant traits? Well, not that one. Okay, there. All right, so you had Apex Predator and Pack Behavior, so now you couldn't play any more dominant traits, right? Well, if the Birth of a Hero age card came up and you had Heroic in your hand, it lets you play Heroic as a 3rd dominant trait. Basically, you have to play Heroic when this comes out, but if it is your 3rd one, that's not a problem. This is the one time you can get 3 dominant traits out, so that's pretty cool. So as you can see, all kinds of age cards in here. And again, we're going to go through a mock turn here in just a minute to give you a little better idea. But so now let's look at these trait cards. So you've got different colors. We've got blue, red, green, purple, and colorless. All right. Now colorless, as you might expect, does not count as a color. But all these other colors could be referenced. And obviously you've seen that certain trait cards will reference colorless as well. And then on these cards, so this one is just worth 1 point. Doesn't give you any special abilities, nothing like that. Just some, cool artwork here. Honestly, I really love the art. It's so simple. Like, it's just, each of these is just like a little blob or whatever. But there's so much personality in these that it's really pretty great. So this one just gives you 1 victory point at the end of the game. That's all that is right there, if it's in your trait pile. So then this kidney right here, on the other hand, this star means that from a face value, it's worth 0. But then look what this says. Value is equal to the number of kidneys in your trait pile. Oh, okay. So now it's worth 1. And apparently there's other kidneys in here. And so if you manage to get more kidneys into your trait pile, then it's going to be worth more. All right. Swarm. Here's another one here where it's worth 0, but the value is equal to the number of swarm traits in play, including this one. So that's not just you. I mean, that's in play. So you're able to kind of play off of opponents' trait piles as well. Let's see what this one is. Tetrachromatic. -1 for each colorless trait in your trait pile. Okay, so it's worth 4. So if you got in there, worth 4 right now, but as soon as you drop that colorless trait into your trait pile, now it's worth 3 instead. Meanwhile, what does Chimera do here? So that A symbol right there means it's an action, all right? That means it's going to happen the moment you play it. Actions are single-use events or single-use abilities that only happen when they're played directly from your hand into the trait pile. So, if it gets traded around or something like that, it doesn't have any effect. But so this one says swap Chimera with a trait from an opponent's trait pile. All right, so you play it into your trait pile, but then immediately swap it out for something else that you want. Which, for instance, if you had kidney in your trait pile and you saw that an opponent played kidney into their trait pile, well, now you play Chimera and you steal their kidney and put it in your trait pile, and boom, just like that, your kidney is now worth 2, as well as the other kidney that just came in. Okay, so the first thing that happens on a player's turn the first thing that happens at the beginning of a round is a new age is flipped over. Now, one thing I forgot to mention a moment ago is the first age is always the birth of life. So this one will flip over. And all this is basically telling you is reminding you, make sure you're at 5 on the gene pool, and until the world's end, play 1 trait each turn and then stabilize to end your turn. That is an entire turn, all right? Now, we're going to go ahead and pretend like 1 round has already been played, okay? So birth of life is in the discard pile for the ages. And let's say that this player had played teeth already, which gives him +1 to the gene pool, so he's at 6. And this player had played heat vision, which is going to give them +1 for each red trait in their trait pile to this card. And you see the card face value is -2. All right, so that's where we're at right now after 1 round. So beginning of the next round. New age is revealed. We've got arid lands. Players cannot play blue traits. Okay, so this player looks at their hand, and they would actually like to play Twitchy because it gets +2 of blue as your highest color count in your trade pile, and they could play that and then get costly signaling out there as well. And notice, by the way, they have 6 cards in their hand because their gene pool is currently at 6. But they can't play Twitchy. They can't play costly signaling because of arid lands right now. So instead, they're looking around, and they say, hey, you know what? Free will here. At World's End, this card becomes the color of your choice. Well, hey, that could help me make sure that I've got more blue than anything else. So we're going to play Free Will. All right. So that's their turn. Now they say, all right, I got to stabilize. They've got 5 cards in their hand. They have to draw a new trait card into their hand. They get self-replicating, and that's their turn. Then this player over here is ready to go, and they see, okay, well, I can't play blue traits, so I know chromatophores, however you pronounce that, that's out. Now this one right here is going to get +1 for each red trait in the trait pile. Right now it's technically at -1 because that counts towards, this red card counts towards that ability. So if I play this red card, then that would make this 0, would get us out of the negatives. And this says all opponents discard 1 red trait from their trait pile. Well, that would be kind of a waste because this guy doesn't have any red cards over here. I do have this dominant trait, camouflage, +1 of the gene pool. That'd be good. That'd get me caught up to him. And then at World's End, +1 for each card in my hand. I can start working towards really building up my gene pool. Telekinetic, steal 2 random cards from an opponent's hand. That could be cool at some point. Yeah, let's play camouflage. That's my first dominant trait. +1 of the gene pool. There we go. I got to stabilize now. I have 4 cards in my hand, so I got to draw 2 trait cards. We get Fangs, and we get Migratory. Fangs, of course, is going to be great. That's another red card to work towards this +1 for each red trait in your trait pile. And that's this player's turn. And that's it. That is how simple the game is. You work your way through the age deck. Obviously, there's 3 catastrophes in here somewhere. It might be on the bottom one, the 3rd catastrophe. Wherever the 3rd catastrophe is, it'll be somewhere in these final 4 cards. That is when the game will end. So you kind of know how long you got, but not quite. A little bit of guesswork there. All right, so there you go. That's Doomlings. So like I said, this is a really fast-paced game, but I feel like there's a lot of cool, I mean, just in that little kind of mock scenario I set up there, you could see I was able to easily, it only took me about 5 minutes to get a couple hands of cards, figure out what I was going to talk about with that and do it. I didn't go searching all those cards out. I think there's a lot of decisions to be made in the way this plays. And, I think that it's a game that people who enjoy heavier games probably could enjoy this as a quick, palate cleanser in between heavy games. If you've got, having a longer game day where you're playing several heavy games in a row, well, throw this one in the middle there. And maybe this will be kind of a good, take a breather from, between Brass and Kanban EV, and then also though, I think this is a game that people can easily figure out, even if they are brand new to gaming and that they're not interested in heavier games. Not to say that people are brand new to gaming wouldn't be interested in heavier games, but if they're the type of person who just, they're not ready for that heavier game, they're just looking for something simple. This could be somebody's very first game. They learn all on their own without any help from anybody else, and they'd be fine. I mean, this is the type of game that I think could be sold in, right next to a lot of the designer games that we're seeing being sold at Target and places like that. This could go right in there, fit right in, and could also be sold in, your friendly local game store. I've had a lot of fun just checking out all the different stuff in this game, all the different cards, discovering different interactions that can happen. I think this is one that probably my middle kid, who's 5 right now, she wouldn't pick up all the interactions. I mean, we'd really have to be, I say 5, she can't read. So that would be a problem, right? You got to be able to read. But she would have fun playing this game anyway, just from looking at the cards. But I guess a more appropriate look at it would be probably my wife and my 13-year-old. Now, my wife likes playing games. My 13-year-old kind of likes playing games. But we could knock out one of these in a quick little 30-minute session, maybe a little bit less, depending on how quickly everybody's playing. It's so easy to learn and still has a lot of cool decisions in it, I think. So if Doomlings is something that you're interested in, be sure to go check out the Kickstarter. Like I said, all the information for the Kickstarter is in the description below. And this has been a fun one. So until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.